Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of the Rectified Podcast. I'm Sandy Dedeon, your host, and today my guest is Jackie Prince, founder of Guests on Earth. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you so much for having me, Sandy.
Jackie, um, I there's a lot of stories about all the products that we clean our house with, that we wash our hands with. And I made the switch 7 or 8 years ago, but there are still like the dish soap. I'm still not convinced that 100%. I didn't try Guests on Earth, which is the next thing that I'm going to try.
Yes,
So
or
tell me a little bit more about your decision to start Guests on Earth and what it's all about. And just like, let's start. Why did you start with Guests on Earth?
for sure. So I guess I'll introduce what Guests on Earth
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So we make the best smelling, best looking, and hardest working non-toxic cleaning products on Earth. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we all of our products come in aluminum reusable packaging. They're beautifully designed, and
Yeah.
the idea is you just buy the bottles once and you use them forever. And then
Mm-hmm.
concentrated refill model. So rather than buying a new, either like a full pouch and pouring the pouch in the thing, or buying a new
Yeah.
bottle of thing, our pouches are super concentrated. So one pouch will dilute into 5 full bottles of product. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is non-toxic. We use essential oils to scent. It smells really incredible.
Yeah.
And the idea, it kind of came from, like many others, like working from home during COVID.
Yeah.
And I found myself constantly cleaning up after my family and my kids with, we were all Lysoling the crap out of
Yeah.
everything time. And I just was just having I really was not liking it. I was kind of
Yeah.
every day, every time I had to go spray down a counter or tidy up again, I was like, I don't like having to spray these. I knew they were bad for you. And
Mhm.
it's, spraying them so much. Um, it just became really amplified. So I started looking into, the ingredients, like what's actually in these things. There, there's a lot of
Yes.
toxic chemicals
Yes.
that
Yes.
we're breathing. I think people are becoming more and more aware of this. Um,
Mhm.
and then beyond just the toxic ingredients that are you're spraying in your home, but also if you're using it in a dish soap,
Yeah.
going down your sink into the water system, as well as the packaging. I started looking into plastics and how much plastics were actually being
Yeah.
recycled that were kind of piling up in my recycling bins. So
Mhm.
was really the impetus. And then I started looking into it more seriously and decided that this was a space that I really wanted to
Yeah.
try and change.
Mhm. I really I'm you don't have to convince me to make the switch because I'm already convinced, but to our listeners and viewers, why is it important to switch from the regular, cleaning products and hand soaps and all of these things to um cleaner products like Guests on Earth or equivalent?
Yeah, so a lot of cleaning products have toxic chemicals like parabens and phthalates and sulfates, 1,4-dioxane. A lot of them have they're endocrine disruptors, so
Yeah.
they're ultimately harmful to people's health. And they're things that we're spraying in our spaces that we live in every single day. um, they're also, again, when you think about what goes down the drain after you're cleaning up, you're washing your hands, like these things
Mhm.
are entering into our ecosystem.
Yeah.
Uh, and then also a lot of scents in these products are they just say like perfume,
Yeah.
and there's all kinds of stuff in there. It's not regulated, so again, a lot of people have sensitivity to that. It can trigger like asthma, headaches, rashes. A lot of our customer reviews speak to the fact that people are typically very sensitive when it comes to scent and fragrance.
Mhm.
Get headaches a lot, but with our products, don't
Yeah.
get headaches and don't see those
Mhm.
reactions. Um, and the next time you're in the grocery store, if you pick up one of the cleaning products on the shelf, you'll probably notice they don't list all of their ingredients.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important.
Yeah. And why, like, there's this misconception that clean quote unquote products like they don't clean well, or it doesn't really remove, all the dirt and everything. If you're, let's say dishes, because that's like the dirtiest things we have.
Yeah.
Um, how did you formulate your product? Like, how did you work on it in a way that it became effective on all the dirt that we have around us?
Yeah, it is a misconception.
Mhm.
And, there are ways of getting a really clean result without using a lot of these toxic chemicals. A lot of the reasons that the kind of traditionally products have used these chemicals is because they're
Yeah.
less expensive. They're easy
Mhm.
to get, they're cheap. And so that's kind of what's been used and accepted. Um, and so I'm not a chemist. My background is brand strategy, social impact, and tech. So
Okay.
when I was had the thought to develop a product like this that could have a larger kind of social impact through, the packaging and the formulas and the experience, I
Exactly.
wanted to find a really fantastic chemist who not only has the capabilities of making something chemically, but also who shares values with the business in terms of wanting to create things that
Mhm.
are more green and kind of stays up to date with the latest
Yeah.
innovation in that space. So it took me a long time. We worked with different manufacturing initially, and we found an incredible partner who just to my point just now, who really shares our values and wants to create things
Yeah.
using the most innovative ingredients. And we're
Mhm.
like laundry product in June that is super innovative in the space, and
Yeah.
even, uses certain ingredients that take less carbon to produce than a more
Mhm.
standard ingredient. Like we even look at it from the footprint of the
Yeah.
actual ingredients where we can.
I was gonna ask about laundry products because I saw that that it's missing from the list.
It's the number one most asked for product.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and we've been working on it for, a year and a half or more, and,
Yeah.
we're really excited to be launching it next month.
Let us know when you launch it so that we can share it too on our social platforms. Jackie, you come from brand strategy. You don't know anything about chemistry, like what we learn in school, but that's not enough. You partnered with chemists and labs and all of that, but initially, like, you felt that there's a gap here, but didn't you like get scared? What am I going to do? This is something that I don't know about. If they're going to tell me all those names of like chemicals and things, like, how did you even convince yourself? We all have those doubts and things in our minds. How did you convince yourself, like, okay, maybe I can do this if I find the right people and work with them?
Well, I did a lot of research initially, so I had a really specific idea of what I wanted.
Mhm.
I wanted something that, and I had ingredients that I didn't want. So it's
Yeah.
not like what I want. I want this type of ingredient profile. For example,
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z. I do not want any of these ingredients. For example, anything listed on the P65 list.
Yeah.
I looked at what I was seeing in the space competitively. I did my own research into like ingredients that I thought, would be, but again, I'm not a chemist. So this was just at a high level, you know,
Mhm.
I wrote a brief essentially. So, my advertising background, I
Yeah.
wrote thousands of briefs where you need to be, pretty specific and outline things, but also leave room for creativity.
Mhm.
I took a very similar approach here. So, what am I looking for? I knew I wanted something, plant based, natural, highly concentrated that could be diluted because
Mhm.
the center of the brand is this element of like doing more with less and
Yeah.
sustainability and creating a solution that, um, that offers a lot more with what you're used to or from what you're used to. So,
Mhm.
um, so that's what I did, and I made sure we check every ingredient. So I would send a brief, we'd have a conversation, and then my chemist would come back with a list of proposed ingredients. Then
Yeah.
I would check all of those ingredients against the no list. So I looked at like Whole Foods banned list, the P65 list, Made Safe when that list was available online, Cradle to Cradle, and the Environmental Working Group, and the Detox Markets list. Because I also had
Mhm.
in my mind like these are the kind of
Yeah.
retailers I want to be in, and I made sure none of the ingredients were on the no
Yeah.
list, and I made sure that the ratings were good on environmental working group, for example.
What's P65? You mentioned it a few times now.
Well, it's California's banned list of chemicals.
All right. Okay. So basically your products are clean and if we use them, we're safe. Like if people have kids around and they're doing things around the kitchen counter and stuff like that, they'll be okay.
That's the high level, exactly. So, we
Yeah.
want it to be safe around kids, around pets, in your home and for
Mhm.
the planet. So, when I was formulating it, I said to my chemist, I want to be able to spray it on my counter and wipe it and then cut an apple and serve it to my son.
Yeah.
Without thinking like, oh,
Yeah.
what am I putting in
Exactly.
his body?
Mhm.
The
All
septic,
right.
they're all biodegradable as well.
Mhm. So is there a story behind the name Guests on Earth?
The name works really hard for us. I think the name lets us speak to the product experience, the amazing
Mhm.
scent, like and the efficacy without having to say, "Oh, and by the way, we're sustainable."
Yeah.
Um, the story behind it is that when I was working in social impact like a decade ago, there was a fantastic ad campaign from the Nature Conservancy where they had celebrities like Julia Roberts and Reese Witherspoon narrate on behalf of Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And the message was kind of like, "Hey humans, I was here long before you and I will be here long after you." And
Mhm.
kind of how long you're here depends on you and how we work together.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of held on to that, and I think it's the ethos of kind of a seventh generation where it's like we're
Mhm.
guests here and we need to try and live in better harmony with the planet and do more to take care of it so that the guests after us and after them
Yeah.
and them can still you know
Mhm.
live and enjoy as we do.
I really love this concept. Like we're merely taking care of Earth for, the ones who are coming after us, like the future generations.
Yeah.
It's really nice. Um Jackie, when you got started, you just mentioned that you had certain stores in your mind, like Detox Market, etc., etc. Um, and you worked like you sort of reversed engineered, sort of, until you got to a product that's going to be acceptable everywhere. So that gives your brand strategy mind, it's influenced by that.
Right.
Um, Today you have a presence in these stores and you have presence online on your own website. How did you decide what do you want to do and when you're going to launch, let's say in stores and on your website? Like, did you do it all together or did you go with different phases?
We launched initially just on the website. However, 6 months before we launched, we started approaching potential partners. And even in fact,
Mm-hmm.
when we were in product design, because that the bottles initially we sold them empty in the store, the aluminum. Now we
Yeah.
sell them full initially in the store and then the refill pouches.
Yeah.
Um, but initially, I went out to a few retailers in Toronto in my local market. I went to Summerhill Market and Cocoa Market, and I asked for their feedback on the concept because it was still a relatively new concept of
Yeah.
refillable and then the diluting. And I think that was really helpful in kind of in creating initial relationships with those
Mm-hmm.
retailers. So Cocoa Market was the first retail partner to bring us on even before we launched. They said, we
Okay.
like this and we'd love to kind of be your first order. So we did have some of those arrangements before we launched, but it was just a very few.
Yeah.
So we launched on the website initially. Like I was doing all of our own press, so kind of was able to get a lot of lovely press out
Mm-hmm.
of, which helped also when we would pitch retail partners. Um, I think retail for us is also a great way to continue to build brand awareness, um, and almost drive sampling and trial at some of our retail
Mm-hmm.
partners. Like we have 2 scents, so we'll have both of the scents out available for customers to smell because it's hard to smell on
Yeah.
the internet through a screen. So I think as we scale, that will help us a little more as well.
Yeah.
Um, but we're definitely intentional about the retail partners that we work with, and certainly have goals. For example, Whole Foods
Yeah.
um, has been a goal from the beginning. So we're very
Yeah.
confident that in Whole Foods within the next 2 years. Getting into Erewhon in Los Angeles was really exciting for us last year, as well as scaling the detox market in Canada and the U.S. And we've been lucky to have a ton of inbound outreach over the past 4 months.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
as the brand has grown, this is just what happens
Yes.
over time, and you
Yeah.
try and build the brand, and more people use it and like it and go into stores and ask for
Yeah.
it. And then we get inbound outreach. So I think it's like for us, it's a nice balance of direct. We're about 85% direct to consumer right now, but we'd like
Mhm.
to go about wholesale more this year, more strategically, and kind of focus on the accounts that we are hoping to align
Yeah.
with.
You mentioned that you're in Erewhon. It's in the US. You're a Canadian brand. Let's just tell everybody you're 100% Canadian, but you're
Yes.
selling in the US because you mentioned Erewhon, obviously. And I don't know if there's any other stores in the US. How is the current situation affecting, or is the current situation affecting your sales within the United States?
We've been really focused on Canada the whole time. We would
Mm-hmm.
love to scale into the US still. I mean,
Yeah.
from a business standpoint, I think a lot of Canadian brands do scale into the US. Um,
Mm-hmm.
90% of our sales are in Canada right now, and that's
Okay.
really we focus.
Yeah.
Um, so we got into Erewhon in November of 2024, which
Okay.
was before all of this happened.
Yes.
And they've been a great partner, and we just recently got into Happier Grocery in New York, who's been a great partner. Detox Market
Yeah.
is in Canada as well as in the
Mm-hmm.
States. And it's interesting because I even have some customers who come to the site and then they'll comment or email saying, "Oh, I noticed you have US press and you're in some US stores." And people are offended by that. And you know
Oh,
we are a Canadian brand. I'm from
yeah.
Toronto. I live in Toronto. My team is here. We manufacture here. And yes, and we also, are in some fantastic stores in the States, and we have editors who love us in the States and Canada,
Yeah.
and we're really proud of that.
Mhm.
So, I think the tariffs have helped us reach more Canadians in our
Yeah.
market, because there's, of course, been this, um, surge of support for Canadian businesses, which has
Yeah.
been fantastic. And then on the other hand, it's kind of introduced this, like, there's a tension now with some Canadian
Yeah.
customers who don't like to see, and who are like, who ask why you have press in the
Mm.
US.
It's interesting. I never thought about, like, yes, we are buying more Canadian, with this whole movement happening here in the country, but it never occurred to me, like, if there's a press, like somebody talked to you, in the US press, that I would be offended or like annoyed by the idea. That's really surprising to me. But again, you don't know how people's reactions are, so maybe.
I mean, look, I understand it. I think there's been really emotional reactions
Yeah.
to it, and I just think from a business standpoint, like we're doing everything that we've always done. We're vastly
Yeah.
focused here in Canada, and I think we still have such a huge opportunity to get in front of more Canadians. Um, and we're really grateful for the kind of support, from
Yeah.
Canadians, from our brand
Yeah.
and a lot of our peer brands as well.
There's a store here in Quebec. It's called Avril. Do you know it?
No, I
It's like a Quebec Whole Foods kind of thing. Maybe you should be there too,
should.
because yeah, I'll tell you the name later, but I don't have contact. So we'll see about that.
Reach out.
Um,
But no, it's great to hear. Like,
yeah,
I love when people, say, "Hey, you
yeah,
should be, or you should be in this store." Like, that's a
yeah.
great way.
It's a
And then,
convenient way to buy, these types of products. This is where I go often. Um, So you were talking about how people are reaching out to you instead of you going to them to sell your product. And I think a major, like, something that plays a very big role in this is the raise of awareness in people's lives. They know more that all these things are toxic, and they know everything that we just talked about. So I believe that this was very helpful. But at the beginning, when you started, you said in 2020, 2021, sort of, was that still an easy thing, or it's getting easier and people are getting more and more awareness about that?
I think there's a large segment of people who've been aware of it for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Having a child is a really big inflection point
Yeah.
for just decisions, especially when it comes to paying more attention to ingredients. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that cleaning is having a really interesting moment where what we saw with like the beauty category and the personal
Mm.
category 10 and 5 years ago, how
Yeah.
people are looking at those things more from a wellness standpoint and really paying attention to the ingredients. Cleaning is starting to have that moment as well. Um, and, which is a great thing for us because we really do excel there.
Yeah.
Um, so I think cleaning as part of like almost thinking of it as like, it can be part of a wellness routine if it's good for you and if you can enjoy it and if it brings you peace of mind. And that's actually what we focus on more in our communications than the ingredients.
Yeah.
Some of our other brands in our space definitely lead with like the things you're using are toxic, and we will talk about that also because I do think that's valid, and I do think I know that not everyone is aware of that. I wasn't aware of that for a very
Yeah.
long time. So I do think there's an educational component as well, so that we will speak, more to that probably in the near future. But our
Mm-hmm.
focus is very much on like the enjoyment that our project
Yeah.
experience can bring. And first and foremost, it's a premium product, it's a superior project experience. And
Yeah.
by the way, it's better for you. And by the way, it's better for the planet.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
would think of our hierarchy.
So basically, your strategy is to talk about the feeling, or to create a certain feeling in the person's, inside ourselves, rather than tell me about your product attributes. Like, it's good, it's clean, the bottle is like this, and the liquid is this, all of these things, but you're playing more on the feeling side of it, right?
Yeah, because those for us are secondary and tertiary messages in terms of exactly what's in it and why that's great and how it works and the environmental benefits.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you have to win on product experience um, and it's fantastic because we see so much. Like every time a customer writes a review, I get a ping. I read
Yeah.
every single review. Every day we get these incredible reviews of people literally
Mm-hmm.
saying, I couldn't write reviews better. Like people
Yeah.
literally saying, like, thank you for making me look forward to cleaning up at the end of the day. Like I actually love cleaning now. Cleaning my
Yeah.
bathroom has been more enjoyable. And reading those
Yeah.
things, you were doing it right, because that's exactly what we
Mm-hmm.
set out the intention to do. And not just for women and moms, but for
Yeah.
everyone. Like we have a nice
The whole
male
family.
customers and like family. Like my kids clean. They'll pick up the bottles and they'll
Yeah.
kind of make more of a mess than they do cleaning. But it's nice because it's like, they like the bottle, they like the spray, they do the
Mhm.
pop.
Mhm.
The act of mixing up the product is fun for kids. Like it feels like they've made it when they pour
Yeah.
the concentrate and then they shake it.
So tell me about that. Tell me about the concentrate, because it's not something that's available in all, like, with all brands.
Yeah.
What's special about that?
So our concentrates we formulate specifically to each product, versus having one kind of master concentrate that does everything in different ratios. Um,
Mhm.
and what the concentrate does is it allows for less packaging use and less space being taken up. So, and that was really important to me from a brand standpoint. Like I wanted everything that we made to be much more compact
Yeah.
and therefore like better from an emission standpoint, environmental standpoint with the packaging. So each of our formulations, the all-purpose cleaner, the foaming hand soap, and the dish soap has their own formulation. They're all
Mhm.
They each come in the pouch. It's you dilute 50 mils of the product with the relevant number of relevant mils of water, and then
Okay.
shake it. It immediately dilutes and becomes the full size product. The dish
Okay.
ratio is a little higher.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how the concentrates work, and it allows us to and the form function is a pouch. And what's nice about the pouch is that it ships flat to us, so then you're saving
Mm.
a space and like weight
Yeah.
and emissions and having to get the products to you. And they're made from 50% PCR, which is post-consumer recycled material.
Mhm. And the water, should it be, like, filtered or anything or just, like,
It can
regular?
be filtered. I think, filtered if you have filtered, and if, regular tap is fine as well. It's
Mhm.
fine for, hard water, soft water.
Okay, interesting. Jackie, let's talk a little bit about how running a business, like with the whole thing rather than the product. So you were working in brand strategy, but then you ventured on your own. Is this the first time that you do this? Like you have a brand on your own?
This is the first product business. I
Mm-hmm.
ran a startup on the side when I was working in New York over a decade ago, but it was more tech focused, and,
Okay.
yeah, so this is my first product
Okay.
business.
And what's the difference between running a service-based business and a product-based business in your
Oh my
experience?
gosh. I mean, scaling a product-based business, is very much down to inventory management
Yeah.
and planning versus, tech is much easier to scale.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the and that's been the biggest challenge is managing supply chain and managing inventory with cash flow, and
Yeah.
kind of from an operations standpoint, using systems that help to make sure processes are, being
Yeah.
followed and work, and that, you have the right thresholds for when you should be ordering more, and just trying to forecast out, because we've seen such incredible growth even in the last 4 or 5 months that
Yeah.
we did not anticipate. And so
Mhm.
that's been a really valuable learning for myself and my team, and in terms of making sure that we have a certain amount of inventory on hand at all
Yeah.
times. Yeah.
Especially, you have online, your own website, and then you have your other retailers, stores, etc., even online stores.
Yeah.
Also, how do you manage like these? I know the retailers have very specific requests, quantities, different pricing, etc. So how do you manage that also?
Um, so certain yeah, exactly right. So larger retailers have more specific, like, standard operating practices that you need to follow. So it's, making sure that every time we onboard a new larger client like that, that we are working with our warehouse team as well. So we have a 3PL, a third party logistics
Yeah.
provider. So we onboard to the new retailer. They share their, standard operating practices with us, which includes things like, what when you ship to us, like, the case, the case packs and the master packs need to be labeled this way with this
Yeah.
information. You need to attach this thing, that, the invoice and the packing list, and
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
going through it. So um, we keep it really tight with our warehouse partners. I made our first full-time hire 2 months ago, so I did just
Mhm.
someone, Sydney, who's fantastic
Congrats.
on customer service and wholesale management. And then she'll also be a salesperson for us as well. So I mentioned a lot of the retail has been inbound recently. We want to be more strategic and outbound as well, and
Yeah.
having an extra fantastic person working with
Yeah.
myself is really going to help
Hmm.
that.
You mentioned your new hire. As a small business, I find it very challenging to hire people and to convince them to work with you, because either you're alone or there's like a couple of other people, and then it's in people's minds, it's not as stable as like the big brands that are known in the market. So how did you choose your person, and how did you convince that person to be a part of your team?
For sure. I mean, I've been really lucky because I think I've built a brand that people care about and
Mm,
love, and the two people. So I have one woman who works with me named Sarah part time, who's been fantastic, and she's been working with me part time for a year. And
Yeah.
Sydney, who I hired full time 2 months ago. Both of them came to me. Sarah, I met while I was selling in person one day at a market, and she
Yeah.
just became in love with the products and has fantastic experience. And we just developed a relationship and kept chatting. And then she kind of, you know,
Mhm.
of like why she can help, and this her skill set and what she brought to the table was very needed and fantastic. So and then the same thing with Sydney. I posted a LinkedIn post in January. uh,
Okay.
we had 300 applicants in 2 days. I freaked
Wow.
out. I was like,
Wow.
going to go through all of these. So I went through, you can filter some out, and then
Yeah.
I went through them. And Sydney, who I ended up hiring, so I also posted it to our social channels.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really great thing to do as well, because I think it's really
Mhm.
nice to bring on people who already follow the brand and who
Yeah.
love the brand. So
Exactly.
Sydney, in this case, she came in through our social, when I posted it on social. She started using our products a few years ago because she had I forget if it was a skin reaction or like a lung
Mm.
reaction, having a bad reaction to her
Wow.
products, and that is how she discovered us. And she's been a customer of
Yeah.
ours for years. So, like, to me, I
Yeah.
think that's a great step one. Uh,
Exactly.
and just of course,
Mhm.
their experience and
Yeah.
personality and all of this to see if
Yeah.
they're fit. I think when you're small, it's nice to do a little trial period initially so that you get a sense of what it's like in the work environment.
Mhm.
We're all remote, but just in terms of like the day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for a company like yours, a brand like yours, that has very specific values and very important values, to bring people who are aligned with these values. Like you cannot bring somebody to work with you who doesn't care about all these things that you care about, that you think about on a daily basis. So the fact that you got people who actually love the brand and actually use the brand is, I find this really fantastic. um Jackie, a little story here, how I found out about guest honors and why you are here on the podcast. Basically, to be completely transparent, I had no idea this brand existed, and I'm really happy that I found it. I'm gonna place an order now because I really want to test the products also. But I just saw ads on my Instagram, and I'm like, "What is this?" Guest honors, and it just like, the packaging. I'm a big I love good packaging and nice packaging and minimalist, all of that vibe that you have. So I'm like, yeah. And then the name and all of it, it just attracted me to stop and look into it. And that's how I found you. And then I reached out, and thank you so much for being here. But it means that your marketing, like the money you're paying on Instagram, is attracting some people who are like me or who care about these things. What else are you doing other than ads on Instagram or on other platforms also?
Thank you
Yeah.
for letting me know. Yeah, our Meta ads, our Instagram ads, and Facebook ads work really well for us. That's the majority of what we've been doing to date. So
Okay.
we really were not doing much for the first year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, for the first like 2.5 years. We were
Yeah.
really focused on just like, okay, we're in it, we're doing this. Like, we did a few small things. Like, we did the Globe and Mail initially, actually.
Mm-hmm.
We were featured there organically for press, and that did really well for us for sales. So we kind of bought some Globe and Mail ads in the lifestyle section initially. Those worked pretty well.
Okay.
We've been, since July of 2024, scaling up our Meta ads and sustainably scaling them up. So those have been performing really well.
Mm-hmm.
Just such a great place also to get customer feedback and like see people's reviews and answer questions, because we get
Yeah.
tons of comments and questions on the comments of the ads. We are doing some podcast advertising. So we were just on the Foster Sisters podcast, the world's first podcast. We bought a little ad space there, which was
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
But I approached them because I listened to the podcast, and I
Yeah.
know how much Aaron in particular loves non-toxic cleaning products and
Yeah.
non-toxic products. So I think those kind of things, it needs to be a good fit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we are going to, just Google search is something we need to get going, is like a no-brainer to kind of buy on
Yeah.
our own. And we're shooting a really exciting, our first like campaign,
Ooh.
um, on Tuesday actually for our laundry detergent, and we're shooting a music video. Essentially, we had a song made, like a really fun song made,
Ah.
not jingly, but it's actually vibey and kind of gets stuck in your head. So we're
Mhm.
shooting that, a music video and a laundromat, next week. And with that, we're going to kind of use that as like a hero asset to really bring people into more of the.
Mhm.
So you'll see things from us like wild postings, those kind of posters outside, which we've done before, more of an awareness play.
Yeah.
And we'll be running some YouTube pre-roll with that. Continue to do, we're going to be on the podcast again in the fall. I'm really excited about how we can continue to kind of stretch, because
Yeah.
we're very lean on budget, we're very
Of
lean with
course. You're a
everything. So
smaller business, obviously.
yes, but I think it's fun to experiment and just be strategic about where you're experimenting, and
Yeah.
like know your customer, know what they like to listen to, and
Mhm.
be hearing from customers even. Um, it was actually like a customer that mentioned to me like, oh, you listen to this, have you heard this podcast,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff is amazing. Like those are great tips.
Mhm. That's pretty cool. Speaking of that, you have a promo code for us, right?
Yes, I do.
All right.
You know what
So
it is?
tell
I remember.
huh?
Do you know what it is?
Is it rectified?
That's right.
The promo code is rectified. How much is the discount?
I need to check. I think it's
Okay.
50%. We're
All
gonna
right,
do.
we're gonna write everything in the description of the podcast. The code
Yes,
is rectified as always, and we're gonna place orders today today because we definitely need to try these products. And to all the listeners, also they definitely need to try these products. Can you let us know where we can find you on your website, which we're gonna link, and where else?
absolutely. So guestsonearth.com, GUESTS, plural, on earth, like planet earth.com.
Mm-hmm.
Our Instagram is at guests on earth. Same with our TikTok. You can find us there. We're also available on well.ca across Canada. And if you scroll to the bottom of our site and click on retailers, you can see who is stocking us across the country.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much, Jackie, for being a guest on the podcast, and to all the listeners here. I'll be back next week with a new episode.